Alrighty, hello everyone. I believe we are live. I am going to fill just a couple seconds of time here because folks are coming over from the other workshop. Apologies, there was just a little feedback on my mic there. But we have an awesome workshop coming up for you all. And I see that people have started to appear in the chat. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Leo, who is the CTO at Defang. They are going to be doing an awesome workshop for y'all, teaching you how you can use Defang, the fastest way to develop, deploy, and debug your cloud application. I know we have a ton of fans of Defang in the Global Hack Week community. They've been a longtime supporter of this event, so we are so grateful to have them back again. And without further ado, Leo, I will hand it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Mary. Hi, everybody. So this is another Defang workshop. We'll try to change it up a little bit compared to the last few times. So if you have attended the previous Defang workshops, I hope there is something new here. So yeah, let's get started. So this is going to be an entry-level workshop. Tomorrow there's going to be a more in-depth workshop. We'll always try to do an easy one and an advanced one. So if you think you have seen this one before, you heard it before, join tomorrow's. Check the schedule. Hi there, I see some people might recognize me from previous workshops. Good to be with you guys. So there is a link that you can go to, Defang Labs, github.io. And this is basically the slides that I'll be using. Thank you for sharing that. It's on the bottom of your screen right now and also in your chat. So you can follow along. You can follow along after the workshop on your own pace. There is links in there that point you to all the right places. Right, so this workshop is the entry-level one. Just to get started, we'll talk about getting your first project deployed, installing the CLI, creating a project from scratch, actually deploying it, of course, and sharing it with other people. Well, maybe let's see how many people we can get to deploy something today. Very excited. Every time after these workshops, people share their links of stuff they have deployed. So let's see how many we get. Let's get into it. There we go. So why even bother deploying? You can build your application. You can use NPM Python to run your application on your local machine. You can use Docker to run it on your local machine. Why bother with the complexity? Well, of course, other people can't see your project if you just build it on your local machine. So when you deploy, you get a URL. This URL can be accessed by anybody. If you're joining a lot of real hackathons, the virtual ones or the in-person ones, and you have to demo your project, most people will demo with HTTP localhost. That is just not that impressive. When you have a real deployed project, everybody can go there. You can share the URL. People can type it in on their phones, on their laptops, and look at your project right away. And if you have a project that has some multi-user aspect to it, maybe it has a chat in it, maybe a collaboration of sorts, you can actually have that experience right there because you deploy to the cloud and everybody is talking to the cloud directly. And isn't that the goal, right? Eventually, you want to figure that out. Eventually, you want your project off of your computer into the cloud where people can do it. And then lastly, once it's in the cloud, you can actually have your own domain. And if we have time, I'll show you how to do that. Get your own domain, hook it all up, and so your own domain name, your supercool.com, whatever it is, can be pointing to your website. And so if you have time, I'll show that as well. Okay, so first call to action. Let's head to the Defang samples page. One-click deploy a project. I'll be deploying the Next.js one. It's a fast one. It's a small one, so it should be fairly fast to deploy. You should take one of the other ones, knock yourself out. But yeah, this is what I'll do. So you can go to our homepage, defang.io. And here you can see kind of what Defang provides. We go from a very simple description of your project, and then Defang translates that simple description to the very complex infrastructure that is needed for the cloud. Thanks, Toki, for sharing. Yeah. So the cloud is often very complicated. You'll need load balancers, firewalls, rules, routing, multiple replicas. You have to, containerize your application and provision it on a different machine, or one of the machine goes down, you have to find another machine. All that complexity is hidden from you. You just have a simple description, and Defang does the rest. So let's press this button. I'll be deploying the Next.js, simple Next.js app. So I'll be using this one. And we'll be doing the one-click deploy. So no download, no nothing. Just select the Next.js project, or whichever you want, and click the one-click deploy button. So I'll be doing that. That redirects you to the portal. So if you're not logged into our portal, which I already was. So why don't I do this? I'm going to close this tab. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to log out of the portal. So then everybody will see the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to press the button again. You end up in our portal. If this is the first time, you'll have to register. If you're already registered, you can use the login. And even if you press register twice, that is fine. That still works. So you end up in the portal, which should eventually direct you to the same page that I showed you before. All good so far? Let me know in the chat if this is all going according to plan. All right, cool. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah. So here, what this does is it takes that one sample and it forks it, clones it in your own account. So I'm going to pick my account. We can pick a repository name here. The default name is fine. It's available, so I'll stick to that. You can make it public. You can make it private. Doesn't really matter. I'll keep it public. And we say create. Now, what this does, let's make sure everything is going to plan here. This drops you into a clone of that sample. Okay, I see Akshat, it's not working for you. If my colleagues are in the chat, so if you describe your problem, they'll be able to help you. So there's a few Defang people in the chat. Describe the problem you're having, or maybe I'll be able to help you. You do need a GitHub account. So if you have a GitHub account and your login is fine, yeah, let me know what the issue is. So anybody seeing this screen, the Next.js clone that was created? Any thumbs up? Anybody following along? So, okay, let's do that again. So you go to the samples, you pick a sample. I search for Next.js, and you press one-click deploy. It goes to the portal where you have to log in, and then it goes to this page, which allows you to make a clone of that sample under your own account. Of course, I have a few GitHub organizations that I'm part of. So yeah, you pick your own. I pick my own name here. This is my GitHub. In this case, it already exists because I just did that, right? Like 2 minutes ago. And then you should see this. This is your clone of that sample. If you already have a repo, I'll show you about that later. Yeah, so if you already have a project, we can do that too. This is just showing you how to deploy something if you don't have anything. So hang in there. If you already have a project, we'll show you how to deploy that. So the other thing that happens is as soon as you create that copy, if you go to actions, you will see a action starting. And this is a Defang deploy action. So immediately, Defang starts deploying your project. And so if you now go back to the portal, you type in portal.defang.dev, you should see that project being deployed. So GitHub, cool. Yeah, surely. That's a good point. This is getting recorded. You can replay it anytime. Cool, good to know. So if you now go back to the portal, you can see that GitHub is actually deploying your project. And it's a Defang running in GitHub. So we can, if we go back here, I'll go back to, this is the GitHub project that we just cloned. You see initial commit, it actually deploying to Playground. Playground is the environment that we provide for free. It's just for testing. It's not supposed to run your application forever. We have different tools for that. But you can see it's your application is being deployed to the Playground. And in our portal, we can follow along. So we can see here, deployment in progress. We also, if you click here, we can see the logs of the project. So this is the Next.js saying that, hey, it's running. We also create a URL for you. So everybody will have a different one. It has my GitHub handle here, the name of the service, the port it's listening on, and the Defang domain. So everybody should get a name like this. So if I click this, this is the sample that we deployed. Okay, so I see some feedback here. On GitHub, I have a red X showing an error with the initial commit, but I can see the site through the Defang portal. Okay, so that could mean that the deployment failed. It could mean that you already have a Defang project up and running. If you want to dig in and share more information, so this is how you would go there. You go to the workflow, right? So this action, and this is probably where you have your red X. So click on that, open this up, and then here you can see exactly all the steps that happen. Share this information with us, and then we possibly can figure out what went wrong. So if you find an error message here, share it in the chat. And okay, cool. Yeah, if you have a project already, our Playground only allows a single project at a time. So it tells you how to delete the previous project. So this is Defang down with the project name Next.js to delete this Next.js project. You need the CLI for that. So that's going to be the next step. Annotations, one error. If you already have a project deployed, then you already succeeded in this step. So don't worry about it. This is really a step that we wanted to show. I don't know how to get started. What can I see? Can I evaluate Defang before downloading anything? So this is just a step for people that have never used it before. If you've already used it, then don't worry about it. We stick to the basics. Okay, so now we have a project up and running. We can go back to the slides. This project is the code from our sample. So now if you want to add it, what do we do? I see another question here. I have a project on GitHub. How can I deploy my project? Yes, we'll show that next. So let's change the sample that we just deployed. Right? We go back to GitHub. This is the sample. Again, I haven't downloaded anything yet. I can go to the app and I can edit the app here. So for example, here it says Next.js times Defang. So I press the edit button, the little pencil in the corner, and then I'll edit this page to say times Global Hack Week. How about that? And then I do a little description. I press the commit button, right? Committing means the changes that I've made are sent back to GitHub. I add a little description, not very important what I type here, just for yourself. I add Global Hack Week. So now I've made a change, and you will see that immediately the action starts again. So because I made a change, it will redeploy the application with my new changes. And so this is cute. It's going to take a while again. We can follow along. If the previous one failed, maybe this one succeeds. We can see, can we deploy machine learning model using Defang? Yeah, in fact, one of the samples that we have use machine learning. So you can look for LLM. So we have, for example, here, also this word has LLM in it, but it's not an LLM sample, but this one, Olama and Mistral, these are two LLM samples that you can deploy. So yeah, same idea, one-click deploy. But keep in mind that our playground only has very few GPU resources. So if you really want to host a machine learning model, you'll have to deploy to your own cloud account. You can use AWS to host your own cloud account for machine learning. All right, back to the project. My change kicked off a new deployment. As before, I can follow along in the portal. Let me open a new tab with the portal. I'll log in here. Portal.defang.dev. So the project is being built, and with my changes, and of course now, because a lot of people are doing it at the same time, right? So everything is going to be a bit slower, because during a workshop we'll have 50 plus people deploying at the same time. So everybody gets through a queue. So one by one, the projects will get deployed. So once this turns green, we'll have our changed website. Oh, I see a question. I have a project made using Node.js, Express.js. How can I deploy it? Yeah, so actually, to get inspiration about these kind of projects, you go back to our sample page. So defang.io. Here are the samples, and we have samples with everything. So if you want to see how you do Postgres, like how do I deploy with Postgres, we have a sample for that. Like you mentioned Node.js and Postgres. So this is a good example. Node.js, React, Postgres sample. You can learn from that. So let's dig in one bit deeper. So how does deployment work with Defang? As I've shown you before, Defang uses a very simple description of your application to create a very complicated cloud application infrastructure. And all of that is derived from this one file. This is called a Docker compose file, or a compose file for short. So this is a compose file that describes the Next.js application that we just deployed. Let me zoom in one notch. See if that, there we go. So on top, we have a list of services. So this application has a single service called app. So all of this describes the service called app. We want this service to be running continuously. So that's what this restart is doing. We want to build this service from sources. So here we describe where are the sources for the service. So these sources are in the app folder. And the image is described using the Docker file. Docker file describes the steps, from top to bottom, which steps need to be executed to package this application. We have a look at that later. So because we're doing internet networking, the application has to listen for requests. So when you connect to a website, it's your browser that sends a request to an application listening on a machine, running on a machine in the cloud. That machine has to listen on a port. Every computer, every server has tens of thousands of ports, and every port can have an application listening on them. So here we're saying our application is listening on port 3000, and so that's where the browser request will be sent to. Ingress means that we will be load balanced. If you have only one machine, it doesn't really matter. But Ingress just says we want to be load balanced. So we want our application to be behind a load balancer Load balancers, they can take care of the routing, the naming. So if you get a unique name for your service, right? The one that we typed in earlier, the one that had my GitHub handle in it. All of that is taken care of by the load balancer. That's what Ingress means. We have a health check. So how does the Defang know, or how does the cloud provider know that your application is healthy, that your application is actually listening on that port? So we use a little command line here, which basically just looks at because we said that we're listening on 3000, we expect HTTP 3000 to be valid. So that's what this command line says. Why this is localhost? Because this test is actually running on the machine itself. It's not something that's running outside of the machine. And then finally, it says how much memory to use for this sample. This is just a template, right? Because this is a very simple sample. We use half a CPU, half a gig of memory. If you get a complicated application, you will be adding more CPU, more memory. That goes without saying. So let's have a look if our application is up and running now. Oh, here we go. So it's green. I can click. And now we see the changes that we've made without downloading. This change was made in GitHub. We have our code change live for everybody to see. So that's pretty good. To make those changes, you can use github.dev, which is a Visual Studio Code in a browser, or you can even use code spaces, which spins up a virtual machine with a Visual Studio Code for you. GitHub provides both of you. You can use the little pencil that I did, but that is not a real editor. That is a very limited, very limited text editor. Or you can do it on your own computer, but you have to download the CLI. So we'll be looking at that. So now people that already have a project or people that want to get more detail, follow along, will first spin down our previous project. So we start from scratch. And then we'll install the CLI. You can use the code spaces template, or you download the CLI. I'll be using the CLI. So let's have a look. To tear down, I'm going to close this tab because we're done here. To tear down, we can click on Playground Projects in the portal and copy paste this command. That's the easiest way, right? We just copy paste the command. For this command to work, we need to install the CLI first. So let's go here, install Defang CLI. We have different installers. So I'm on a Mac, so I can use Brew. You can also use this script. If you are on a Mac, this script works as well. Actually, let me use this. So I'll copy this, and I'll show you what that does. If you're on Windows, you can do winget install Defang. All newer versions of Windows should come with winget installed. If you have an older version of Windows, that must be like 2 years old or something, then you might have to install winget. Search the Microsoft.com website, how to install winget. You can finally, Nix is another installer you can use, or you can download the CLI directly from our release page. That is for advanced users. I would not recommend that for any beginner. So I'm going to copy paste this command into my CLI. I have the terminal here. So if you don't know how to get this, you can type in terminal. I use iTerm, which is another terminal that you can download for macOS. Both work. That should drop you on a screen like this. It might be white, mine is black, same thing. And I'm going to paste that installer that I copied, that line, and run that. You'll see this will install the latest version of your... Cool. Thanks, Shamari. I've seen you before in this workshop, so thanks for joining again. Always fun to have people join again. Awesome. So this has installed the Defang CLI, and when we type Defang, we should see this help screen. Cool. Thanks so much for the positive vibes. Okay, I'm going to wait a minute to make sure everybody has installed Defang again. So let me show real quick for people that missed it. You go to the portal, portal.defang.dev. You press install Defang CLI button on the left side, and it shows you these different ways of installing Defang. I used the script. Then I went to iTerm or terminal. I paste it, and I run it. You can do that. This is also how you would upgrade. So if you want to upgrade Defang, you would do the same thing. And if you ever forget how to upgrade Defang, you can type Defang upgrade. That should tell you how to upgrade exactly. It will tell you exactly. It will try to figure out this is what you did before, and you can do that again. Cool. So I'm going to assume that everybody is up to date. The next step we do is Defang generate. Let's do that. So if you're following along with the workshop slides, we're step 4. We do Defang generate, and we'll use a command like a prompt. So we're going to describe the application that we are. Okay, yeah. I would say yes to that. Akshat is asking. The installer is asking about adding shell completions. So shell completions are very useful. If you're not very familiar, I'll show you what that looks like. Now, let me open a new tab. We'll go back there. So shell completions allow you to use the tab key on your keyboard next to the Q, in my case anyway. If you have a German keyboard, it'll be next to the A, or a French keyboard. Though use the tab key to show all the options that Defang command understands. So that is shell completions. So if you allow the Defang installer to create shell completions, then you have this functionality. So you can, using tab key, you can see all the commands and browse the help while you're typing the command. Okay, so is that clear? So even, for example, Defang compose shows you all the options that you have for Defang compose. Cool. So we're going back with Defang generate. Yes, Windows can do that too, but maybe only in PowerShell. The Windows installer, I'm not 100% whether that works immediately or you have to restart. So Defang, the Defang tool is on GitHub. So Defang Lab/Defang. And we do describe how to set it up for Windows. So if you go there, we have here command completion. So it's in the README right there. And it will tell you, if you're using PowerShell, this is how you would install the completions for PowerShell. Yeah, so Defang Labs/Defang, scroll down to the completion. If you are on Windows, these are the instructions. Yeah, cool. Back to the terminal. We pick the first option. So these are all our samples, actually. So for people that, you know, maybe they missed the first 5 minutes, those samples that you can browse on our homepage, you can also find them here. For example, this is the Next.js one, the one that we just looked. Okay, is that clear? I did forget something. We said we would tear down the project first. So let's do Defang down, copy this, because you can only do one project at a time in Playground. So copy paste that, and we tear down the previous project. So now if you go back to the portal, you will see that the project has disappeared from the portal. Go back here and we do we don't have to wait for it to be done. We just do Defang generate. We pick, let me clean the screen. So, sorry. Here we go. We pick the first option, generate with AI. We're going to create a project from an English language prompt. I'm going to pick Node.js. That's what I'm most familiar with. And then we're describing the project that we want to create. So this is from scratch, right? People that already have code, that already have source code, basically you can still do this to get the files that you need, and then you can pick those files and put them in your project that you already have. This will create all the files that you need for a deployment. So I'm going to write something. We can use the prompt from the workshop. So this is an Express.js service rendering an HTML page with a random meme. Let's try that. Or maybe I'm going to try something else. Express.js service returning HTML with an image of a random dog. How about that? You can do cat, you can do meme, just something simple for this workshop. You can try more complex things. You can do a upload, download form kind of thing. I tried that before. I'm going to do like a random dog. And so here is a name of the project. I will call it the Global Hack Week dog. And press enter. Yeah. So this is going to generate a project based on my language prompt, and the project is going to all have those files in it that it needs. So it will, once this is done, we'll have a look at those files, and we'll can also, oh, okay, it's done already. So it has created those 4 files, and it has opened Visual Studio Code for me. Here, this is the Visual Studio Code that was opened with those 4 files in it. You can see it's the same as the ones listed here. This is the compose file, very similar to the Next.js project that we saw earlier. One service, running forever, source code in the same folder. That's what the dot means, right? It means in the same folder. Docker file is the name of the file that describes how to build an image. We'll walk through that real quick. Again, every application listening on a port. Same as before, we're listening on port 3000. We have a environment variable set to the endpoint with random dogs. So this is where the random dogs come from. And we have a health check here. Yes, the session is recorded. If you scroll up, the link to the recordings were shared before, but you're sure somebody will help you and point you to the right place. This Docker compose file, very similar to what we saw in the sample. The Docker file, this is how to make a container image. A container image is like a package. It has everything in it, your application, but also stuff your application needs. So do you create a Docker image and use a local host? Actually, that local host is not your computer. That local host is the server in the cloud. Everything happens in the cloud. Even the container image happens in the cloud. So the Defang CLI, what it does is it packages the files, in this case, these 4 files, it packages them, sends them to the cloud, and then in the cloud, we create container image for you. We find the dependencies that you need. In this case, like you need Node. Of course, it's a Node.js application, so you need Node. We need curl, because curl is what was used in the health check. You see this health check is using a command called curl. And so the Docker file says, okay, you need to install curl. It will install any other stuff that your application needs. For example, Node.js applications, they have this file called package.json. And it has third-party dependencies. And so that also will be installed by the Docker file. But everything is happening in the cloud. You don't need to have Node on your local machine. Okay, so these files look okay to me. These look fine. So let's go back to the terminal and deploy this application. So you see that the terminal is, Defang is telling me to do cd change directory. CD means change directory. And then I do a defang compose up. There we go. Now we're deploying this new application. As before, we can follow along in the portal. This is the link to the portal. You can click that. You can see that our new application is up here. It's red, so it's not running yet. We have like before, we got a URL that is created for us. This doesn't work yet because, of course, the application is red. Yeah, code spaces. Check out the documentation about code spaces. It's just been shared earlier. Yeah, thanks, Eric. All right, let's wait for this to turn. How are people feeling? How is it going? Show me, did people generate? Don't think too much about the prompt, right? People, they either lock up or they copy exactly what I typed. Be creative, like I want a website with 2 buttons for chatting, Should I be worried if my defang generate command is still on the working on it phase? This could have multiple reasons. It could be that it's very busy because we have a workshop like this, 50 plus people doing the same thing. The server will be very busy. So just wait for it. If it doesn't work in like 2 minutes, then maybe you can Control C, which aborts the project, the command, and try again. Okay, the terminal. So my terminal, of course, is showing all the output of the application that I am doing. So I did a defang generate that I picked generate with AI. I picked Node.js, but that question seems to have disappeared, but I picked Node.js as the language. And finally, I use a prompt. Pick your own prompt, be creative. I picked an Express.js service returning HTML with an image of a random dog. Put it in a folder that you remember. I called it Global Hack Week Dog. And then working on it should take 2 minutes. If it takes more than 2 minutes, maybe something went wrong. Try again. But it shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. After that, defang generates the files. So this is what I meant to say. If you already have a Docker, or not a Docker, like a project on your local computer and you want to deploy it, you likely already have like your code and your packaging, could be a package JSON, could be a requirements, TXT, whatever language you're using. These are the 2 files that you need to deploy your project. You need a Docker file and you need a compose file. So what you can do, use the generator or use our samples to pick those 2 files. Pick a sample that's very close to what you already have, and then copy these 2 files and go from there. That should work. Oh, so let's see where this is at. I see my service has completed. I got a URL, which is the same one we saw in the portal. I'm going to click this. What do you guys think happens when I click this? Let's try. All right, there we go. We have a website with a random dog. That's pretty cool. So how's it going? Share with me a URL. Anybody in the chat, please. If you made something, oh, cool. Here we go. Adel has deployed something. Let's have a look. It better be suitable for work. Yeah. I'm going to open this on a private screen first. Yeah, also random dog. Okay, I see. You use the same prompt as I use, or did you? Yeah, looks pretty cool. So now you have something you can. You can change this, right? So now we have a very simple project. Now we can go into our editor and change this up. So this is HTML. Of course, this is very simple. This is not using Next.js. It's not using a framework. So it's going to be very, very simple. If you want to use Next.js, change your prompt, right? Tell your prompt to use something else. Oh, here we have another project that somebody made. Let's have a look. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Simple form post. So here, I guess I can put my name in here and submit. And it says, hello, Leo. Well, that's pretty cool, right? And this is a starting point, right? You can use this as a starting point, add your features, or use AI to add more features. Like, for example, if I want to say, here, you can use Copilot or something like this. This is a cursor. You can say add get endpoint with an HTML that changes the name of the dog shown on. Let's see if that makes sense. So you can use AI tools to keep changing the little template that we create. There we go. I'm just going to accept this and see if this does what we think it does. So it has now a dog name, and it has a way to update the dog name. Okay. I'm going to deploy this and see what happens. Yeah. Defang compose up. In this case, I'm using the terminal in the editor. You see that? So the editor comes with a terminal. You can also, of course, you can also do it here in the separate terminal. It's the same thing. Sometimes it's convenient to stick to stay inside the editor. Random cats. Yeah, well, did somebody try random cat? Did somebody in the chat try to generate a project with a random cat? Share the URL, please. But yeah, try it out. Use the same prompt. You know, it's going to be similar to the prompt that we described in. Yeah, it's going to be similar to this prompt, but you just say, you know, a random cat. Of course, you probably need a different API, or let the AI figure out which API. Maybe you don't even say anything about the API. You just say Express.js service renders an HTML page with a random cat. You know, try it. And if it works, share the URL and we can pull it up. So we can see we made changes, and now the deployment is running again. Unsplash access key. Yeah, okay. So this is a good one. Thanks to Akshat for raising this. The AI will, if you don't tell it which API to use, it will pick an API that it thinks is useful. And in this case, it picked Unsplash. Many APIs require access keys to be used. Some of them, like image flip, the dog CEO, I'm sure there's a cat API. They don't require access keys, and so the sample will work right away. Some APIs will require an access key, and those are APIs that are usually they're not free, or they require an account. So you have to go to the page, make an account, make an access key, and then use that access key in your application. I'll show real quick how to do that. So pay attention. This was not originally the plan. Usually access keys are in the same environment block in your compose file. So I'm guessing you got something like, you know, blah, blah, access key, right? Something like this. And then when you try to deploy this, I'll open a new window, Defang compose up, you get an error message. The error message says missing config, blah, blah, access key, right? So that's the error message that you're describing. So what you need to do now is use an access key, go to the website to get the access key, and then you use Defang config to add that key to Defang. You tell Defang about the access key. So Defang config set, take the blah blah access key, you press enter, and then you say what is the value for the access key. And so here, this is where you would copy paste after creating an access key in the respective website, copy paste it here to tell Defang about the access key. That solves the error. Another thing to try, that many times the AI will tell you need an access key, but you don't really need an access key. And you can just comment it out or delete it and try. So maybe Akshat, if you want to try to comment it out. Maybe the API is happy without access key. If it doesn't work, you probably need to make an access key in the Unsplash website. So let's have a look. Remember what we did? We changed the code to ask for a dog name. So by default, the dog name is Buddy. So we go back to the source code here because I forgot what it was. Update name. So we say update name is, what's a good dog name? Give me a good dog name, people. I'm not particularly I don't know. Anybody with dogs? Rudolph. All right, let's try it out. Rudolph. Did I? Oh no, I had the question mark on the wrong place. Did I? Yeah. So name equal, update name equal Rudolph. There we go. Now the website says Rudolph. Oh, actually, I could have used the form. So enter dog name Kintu. Meet Kintu. Yeah. Yeah. So using AI tools, you can make more and more complex. Yeah. Okay, guys. The website works. Yeah. So we know this works. Did somebody try the random cat? Oh, not yet. All right. Cool. So that was this step. We did that. Okay. So now using your own domain name, we have 10 minutes left. Let's try it out. We're going to use our own domain name. And the way that works is we're adding domain name to the compose file. So first we need to buy a domain. That's there's many places where you can buy a domain, right? If you just Google buy a domain name, yeah, you'll get many suggestions. I have used Portbun before. I'm probably already. Okay, I need to log in, so give me a second. Cool. So this is what Portbun looks like. I'm logged in, and so we can, I can either use one of these names here that I already, but yeah, we can do global hack week demo.xy demo.xyz. So we can see here this domain global hack week demo XYZ is $2. Yeah, let's buy it. Okay, I'm doing it, guys. Global hack week demo. Oh yeah, so I can still change my mind. So if you guys have better ideas, paste it in the chat now, and I can still change my mind. All right, I'm going ahead. Let's do it. Here we go. All right, I'm doing it. $2. There we go. Cool. Sorry, too late. I already bought the domain. So here we go. Global Hack Week demo. So the domain is, when you buy a domain, it can always take a few minutes for it to be actually usable. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to say doc.global hack week demo. It's going to be a CNAME record. And this is going to point to the address that we already got, right? So in here, we see the address we already got. So copy that. And I'm going to paste that in the domain management. Yeah, that looks good to me. So, and then we're going to tell Defang about it. So we go back to our editor, go to the compose file, and we'll say somewhere here we add domain name doc global hack week demo.xyz. And that's it. That's all we need to do. Now we do defang compose up. Oops, what did I type? Defang compose up. There we go. It's deploying now with my new domain name. So let's see how that goes. You can see here the portal now shows the domain name. Right, how's it going, guys? Does this any questions? All good? And people all following along? Two tabs selected. I didn't even know that was a thing. So yeah, wait for this deployment to finish, and then we'll have our own domain. So somebody asked what language models are being used in AI-generated projects. So if you use Defang generated, we're actually using ChatGPT. But of course, in your own editor, you can configure whichever one works well for you. A lot of people use Claude. A lot of people use Copilot. Tab 9 is another one. Oh, you got a cat. Okay, let's have a look. Somebody, thanks for trying. Yeah, that is so cool. That is so cool. Thanks for trying that. So this is the same, but with the cat prompt. Random cat. That is so cool. Awesome. Very cool. Yes, these are recorded. You can watch it. You can also, we have our workshop slides on GitHub. So defanglabs.github.io/workshop. And then this workshop, you'll have to enter this workshop equal entry level. Oh, that is so cool. Somebody made a little cats and dog game. That is so cool. Very nice. Yeah, so now you can make it multiplayer, right? Because you have a URL, you can write the code or let the AI help you write the code to make it a multiplayer game. Very cool. Oh, so I completely forgot what we were doing. We were setting up our own domain name. So the deployment finished. It says you can use dog.ghw domain XYZ after defang cert generate. So we'll have to type that in, copy paste that, defang cert generate. So what this does, it makes sure that it checks whether the domain name is actually pointing to my defang domain. So you cannot point to somebody else. You cannot say, hey, I'm google.com, right? You have to have access to the DNS server to be able to do this. So I added the record in port bun, copy pasted from the portal, and now Defang is checking, is that exactly pointing to my name? So do I own that domain? And once that is done, it will set up all the other settings. This can take a while, right? So every time you buy a domain, it can take a while. Domains can take up to, I don't know, 15 minutes. It can be like 15 seconds, can be 15 minutes. Not very predictable. It has to do with networking, DNS caches, your router, any proxies, the network that you're in, the internet service provider that you're part of. So not very predictable, I'm afraid. But yeah, once that's set up, and the Defang CLI will do everything for you. So here we should be able to see. Yeah, see, so my computer thinks the GitHub demo is not working, but port bun says everything is fine. So yeah, this is one of those cases where you just have to be patient. Yeah, so this is fine. Port bun is fine, but then my computer thinks it's not working. Not much I can do about it, but wait. But from a Defang point of view, everything is done. So you can probably try a few minutes later, and it should be working. So that's all I wanted to cover here. Thanks very much, people that shared their projects. Very cool. Watch the recording. Go to Defang.io, deploy a project using one-click deploy. Pick a project that, something simple like a Node.js or Python, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Very cool.
All righty. Thank you so much, Leo. That was awesome. I know we had a ton of folks in the chat asking for the recording. I will make sure that we have that posted in Discord for y'all right away. But thank you so much. This was an awesome workshop.
Thanks, everybody.
Right. Happy hacking, everybody.
Tomorrow is another one. See you.
Yes. See y'all at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow.
Cool. Bye.